They say curiosity killed the cat. But what they don't tell you is what happens when the cat opens a door it can't close. It started like any other night. The room was dark except for the soft blue glow of my 3 monitors. The hum of my custom-built PC was the only sound filling the silence. Outside, Portland was drenched in rain. The city always felt quieter when it poured like this, as if everyone agreed to stay indoors and mind their business. So did I. My name's Jacob Mercer. I'm 27, and I work in cybersecurity. That's the job title, at least. What I really do is spend long nights chasing digital shadows and digging through places on the internet where most people don't even know exist. The surface web? That's kindergarten. I swim in deeper waters. And on this particular night, I was bored. That's the worst thing for someone like me. Boredom leads to curiosity, and curiosity makes me dig. I was scrolling through an old forum I hadn't visited in years, a hidden board buried under layers of encryption. The kind of place where anonymous users shared code, secrets, theories, and sometimes things no one should ever see. Most of it was garbage, but one thread stood out. Thread title: Who watches you when you're alone? No replies. No upvotes. No date. I clicked it anyway. Inside was only one thing, a link. It wasn't a standard URL. It was a .onion address, deep web territory. The kind of link that needs Tor to open. But what gave me pause wasn't the format. It was the message under it. Do you like watching yourself? I stared at those 6 words for a while. My hands hovered over the keyboard. I've seen traps before, fake links, phishing setups, illegal streams designed to bait people. But this didn't feel like any of that. It felt personal. My curiosity whispered. Just one click. Just a peek. So, I copied the link and opened it through my secure sandbox browser. The screen went black. For a long moment, I thought the page was dead. Then static, like an old VHS tape warming up. A loading bar crawled slowly across the bottom of the screen. Finally, a video player appeared with one file inside. EP01 jacobmercer.mp4. My heart paused for just a second. That was my full name. No aliases. No usernames. Not even Jacob M. My real name. I swallowed, leaned forward, and hit play. The video flickered to life. The screen showed a grainy, low-light recording of a man sitting at a desk. His back was turned at first. He was typing, just like I was moments ago. Then he turned toward the camera. And I stopped breathing. It was me. Same hair. Same hoodie. Same faint scar under my jaw from a bike accident when I was 13. Even the way he tapped his index finger against his mug, it was something I did without thinking. I watched, frozen. The video Jacob got up, stretched, walked to the window. Just like I had done an hour ago. Then he checked his phone, laughed at a message. I had laughed at the same meme earlier tonight. Every little detail it matched. It wasn't a recording from today. I would have remembered that camera angle. And there wasn't any camera in my apartment, not that I knew of. But there it was, footage of me doing things I had already done. Only now I was watching it from the outside. I paused the video. Rewound it. Watched it again. Still me. Still perfect. Still impossible. My mind raced for answers. Could someone have hacked my webcam? No, my webcam had a manual shutter. Could this be AI? Deepfake? Maybe. But the movements, the lighting, the room, everything was too natural. Too precise. There was no uncanny valley. It felt real because it was real. I sat there, the rain tapping harder against the window, my heart beat louder than the storm. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone in the room. I felt watched. Then the screen blinked, and a new message appeared under the video. EP02 coming tomorrow. We're just getting started. And underneath that, the username, r_veil. I leaned back in my chair, staring into the dark reflection on my monitor. Something was watching me, and it wanted me to keep watching back. I stared at the video thumbnail on the screen, my heart already uneasy. It was low-res, like those early 2000s videos that looked like they were recorded on a flip phone in a dark basement. The title read only, EP01 Jacob Mercer. That was my name. I clicked play. The video opened with a shaky frame of an apartment. At first, I thought it was stock footage or some random surveillance feed. But the longer I watched, the more unsettled I became. The couch was the same dull gray. The wallpaper had that same tear behind the TV. Even the coffee mug sitting on the table, it had that crack running along the handle. The crack I had made 2 weeks ago. Then I saw him. A man walked into frame. Same dark hair. Same narrow jaw. Same faded hoodie I was wearing now. He sat on the couch, rubbed his eyes, and picked up the same cracked mug. It was me. Not someone who looked like me. Not a twin. Not a cosplayer. Me. I paused the video. Took a breath. I looked down at my hoodie. Reached for the mug on my table. It was warm. I had just made coffee minutes ago. I rewound the video and played it again. My eyes stayed locked on the way he moved. Subtle things. A twitch I have when I'm thinking. A way I scratch behind my ear when I'm nervous. The guy in the video was doing all of it. Except, I didn't remember this moment. I had never sat down with a mug and stared blankly at the TV like that. Not in that hoodie. Not on this day. At the 5-minute mark, Video Me stood up and walked to the window. He opened the blinds and stared out at the street below. I followed the movements in real time. He looked left. I looked left. He looked right. I looked right. Nothing outside. Then he turned around and stared straight into the camera. Into me. My skin crawled. His face didn't change, no expression. Just that blank stare. I slammed the laptop shut. The click of the lid echoed too loudly in my apartment. I waited. Listening. Silence. I slowly stood and walked to the window. Opened the blinds. Looked left. Then right. The street was empty. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. Not from the street. Not from a camera. But from somewhere close. I paced for a while, unsure if I should tell someone. But tell them what? Hey, someone uploaded a video of me doing things I don't remember doing. Yeah, that would go over well. Instead, I opened the laptop again. I typed the site address into the browser. But the page was gone. Just a 404 error and a blinking cursor. No video. No title. Nothing. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was some weird cache glitch. A hacked webcam feed spliced with some AI-generated face? That had to be it. I ran a deep scan on my laptop. Checked the router logs. Nothing strange. Clean. I shut everything down, pulled the plugs, turned off every device in the apartment. But as I lay in bed that night, the video kept playing in my head. The way he moved. The way he stared. And that face. My face. Looking back at me through the screen. Like it knew something I didn't. Like it was waiting. For the next episode. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying the video in my mind. The way my double moved. The way he scratched his neck exactly like I do when I'm nervous. The way he looked up when the neighbor's dog barked. These weren't random similarities. These were exact, down to the smallest twitch. Still, I told myself it had to be a coincidence. A trick of technology. A very creepy, very well-made deepfake, maybe. I've seen AI mimic voices and faces, but this felt personal. I made coffee the next morning, just trying to keep my hands steady. The sun looked dull through the blinds. I left the lights off. Didn't feel like inviting too much brightness into my apartment. That's when the first thing happened. I dropped my mug. Not because I was startled or clumsy. No, because the mug slipped from my hand the exact same way it did in the video. Same slow spin in the air, same crash, same coffee spreading across the tile like a little oil spill. I stared at it, frozen. In the video, my double cursed and went for a towel under the sink. I did too, without thinking. As I stood up with the towel in hand, I paused. Wait. No. I should have gone for paper towels from the counter. That's what I usually do. I stared at the towel in my hands. I was already following the script. The rest of the day unfolded like it had already been decided. At 9:37 a.m., my internet cut out. Just like in the video. I even remembered the timestamp. I tried to reset the router like I always do, but it blinked back to life on its own after exactly 60 seconds. At 11:03 a.m., someone buzzed my apartment, delivery guy with Thai food I hadn't ordered. I didn't even like Thai food, but I took the bag anyway because, in the video, my double had done the same thing. By the time evening came, I wasn't just scared. I was starting to feel like a passenger in my own life. Around 6:15 p.m., I stood by the window. I knew what was coming next. In the video, I had picked up my phone and called an old friend, Eli. Someone I hadn't talked to in over a year. I remember thinking, why him? And yet, my hand reached for my phone. I stared at it, trembling. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to follow the script. But a part of me wanted to know, wanted to test just how deep this rabbit hole went. I called. It rang once. Twice. Then, hello. Eli sounded exactly like I remembered, laid back, slightly amused, always a little stoned. Jacob, he said. Whoa, this is unexpected. In the video I had said, yeah, I was just thinking about you. So I said it. Not because I meant it. Not because I wanted to. But because I already had. The conversation was awkward, like two ghosts speaking after a funeral. Nothing important was said. But when I hung up, a cold sweat ran down my back. Because I realized something terrifying. I wasn't choosing anything. I was just acting out a script that had already been filmed. I turned off all the lights and sat in the dark. For hours, I didn't move. What scared me wasn't just that the video predicted my day. It was that I'd followed it willingly. Like something in me wanted to obey. What happens when the next video comes out? What if it shows me doing something worse? What if I can't stop it? I didn't sleep the night after the second video. I tried. God knows I tried. I crawled into bed, turned off all the lights, and wrapped myself in the blankets like armor. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, me, on that screen, moving in ways I never remembered, doing things I didn't understand. By morning, my head throbbed and my nerves buzzed like frayed wires. I sat at my desk, hands trembling over the keyboard. I told myself I wouldn't check the site again, that it was just a fluke, a weird coincidence. Maybe someone was screwing with me. Maybe someone had hacked into my webcam, and no, that didn't explain everything. That didn't explain the scar under my chin, the birthmark on my left shoulder, the way he rubbed his temple exactly like I do when I'm thinking. But still, I needed to be sure. I opened the link again. A third episode had been uploaded. EP03, the package. My stomach sank. I clicked. The video began with Mirror Me, sitting exactly where I was now, in my computer chair, watching the same screen. He blinked slowly, glanced at the clock, then stood up and walked to the door. 3 knocks. A brown package sat outside. He picked it up. No label. No return address. He brought it in, placed it on the kitchen table, and opened it. Inside was a single item, a small black mask, smooth, blank, like a mannequin's face. Then the screen went black. No credits. No outro. Just silence. I stared at the blank screen for a long time. Then I heard it. 3 knocks. My body froze. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The knocks echoed again, louder this time. I turned my head slowly, terrified of what I might see. The door. Closed. Still. Another knock. I stood, legs shaking, and walked toward it. My breath caught in my throat as I reached for the handle. I opened the door. There it was. A brown package. Just like in the video. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to bring it in. But curiosity is a strange beast. It whispers in your ear, even when fear screams louder. I carried it to the kitchen table. My fingers hesitated at the edges. I opened the box. And there it was. The same smooth black mask. I backed away, knocking over a chair. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear my own thoughts. I wanted to believe this was all some elaborate trick. Maybe I was part of some hidden camera show. Maybe I was dreaming. But deep down I knew better. This was real. And whoever was behind it wasn't just watching me. They were scripting me. Over the next few days, more episodes followed. EP04, The Stranger on the Bus. EP05, What's in the Fridge. EP06, The Door That Wasn't There Yesterday. Each one showed Mirror Me doing something I hadn't done yet. And each time, within 24 hours, the events unfolded in real life. Sometimes the details were small. A phone call I hadn't planned to make. A text from an unknown number. A stranger bumping into me on the street and whispering, "You're not alone." Other times, it was worse. I found a door in the basement of my building that I swore hadn't been there before. Just like the video showed. A woman on the bus smiled at me with hollow eyes. Just like in the video. The fridge. I don't even want to talk about what I found in the fridge. I started to lose track of what was real and what was pre-written. Was I acting out a script someone else had written? Was I still me, or just a puppet with my own face? I tried to stay awake for days, hoping that if I didn't sleep, the future couldn't catch up to me. But even with bloodshot eyes and shaking hands, I couldn't stop watching. Each new episode pulled me deeper, and Mirror Me kept smiling. Like he knew something I didn't. Like he was waiting. I stopped watching the videos. At least, that's what I told myself. But the truth was, I still checked the site every night, even if it was just to see if a new episode had dropped. And they always did. Like clockwork. The titles never changed much. EP05 Jacob, EP06 Jacob, EP07 Jacob. Each one the same format, the same grainy intro. But the content inside, it was getting worse. The man in the videos, my twin, my copy, my reflection, wasn't just mimicking my daily life anymore. He was breaking it. He'd leave the apartment, walk into gas stations, shout at strangers. He smashed a mirror in one of the videos, stared into the broken glass, and laughed. That same laugh echoed in my ears hours later when I passed the bathroom and caught a glimpse of myself. Only, it didn't feel like me in the reflection anymore. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined cameras pointed at me, hidden behind the walls, tucked inside smoke detectors, watching, recording, feeding the next episode. So I tore them all down. I started with my webcam, ripped it right off the top of my monitor, and smashed it with a hammer. Then the microphones. Then my router. I dug through every wire in the apartment like a madman, breathing heavy, hands shaking. I checked under tables, inside vents, behind light fixtures. I didn't stop until the place looked like a crime scene of cables and shattered plastic. But the next morning, a new episode was online. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. In the video, I watched myself smashing the webcam, exactly how I had done it. Same swing, same hammer, same expression on my face. There was no delay anymore. It was like the camera I broke had still been filming. Or something else had been. Something I couldn't find. That's when the mirrors started acting strange. It sounds crazy, I know, but I started to notice tiny delays. Not always. Just sometimes. When I walked past the hallway mirror at night, I'd catch a flicker in the corner of my eye. Like my reflection hesitated. Like it blinked slower than I did. Or turned its head a second too late. Once, I froze in front of the bathroom mirror and stared for a full minute. And I swear, God help me, I saw it smile. But I wasn't smiling. I stopped looking in mirrors after that. I covered them with sheets. Ripped them off the walls. The one above the sink, I smashed with my fists. Blood dripped from my knuckles, but I didn't feel it. I just kept hitting the glass until it was dust, until I couldn't see that face anymore. My face. Or was it? I started recording myself, trying to prove I wasn't going insane. But every time I played the footage back, I'd hear faint audio distortions. Whispers. At first I thought it was just the mic picking up static. But then one night, at exactly 3:09 a.m., I played a clip and heard something clearly. A voice. "You're not alone, Jacob." I froze. Rewound it. Played it again. Nothing. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I stayed home from work. I shut all the curtains, unplugged every device, and sat in the living room, staring at the TV. It was off, but the black screen showed a faint reflection of me sitting there, hunched, pale, eyes sunken. I didn't recognize myself. I wanted to scream, but what was the point? Who would believe me? I couldn't even trust my own reflection anymore. I couldn't trust my own hands, my voice, my thoughts. That night, I broke the biggest mirror in my apartment, the full-length one in my bedroom closet. When I swung the bat, the glass didn't just shatter, it screamed. Just a high-pitched wail. Sharp. Short. But I heard it. I swear I heard it. I ran out of the room and didn't go back in. Now, I keep the lights on all the time. I sleep on the couch. I haven't opened a single video in 2 days. But I know they're still being uploaded. I know they're still watching. And I know something is watching me from the other side. It wears my face. But it's not me. I hadn't slept in 2 days. My apartment was cold, darker than usual, even with the screens on. The only sound was the low hum of my computer tower and my own shallow breathing. I had unplugged every camera, taped over every webcam, even blacked out the bathroom mirror. Still, I felt watched, like something just outside my vision was observing me, waiting. That night, another episode dropped. But this one was different. Instead of the usual shaky footage of me, or my double, walking through my routine, the screen was pitch black. At first, I thought it was broken. Then the audio kicked in, soft static that slowly gave way to a voice. It wasn't mine. It wasn't distorted like the others had been. It was calm, almost friendly. "Good evening, Jacob." I froze. The black screen lit up, just a single point of light in the center, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then slowly the image sharpened. A figure emerged from the darkness. He wore a hood, shadowy and large, but his face wasn't a face. It was a smooth, polished chrome surface. No eyes. No nose. No mouth. Just a reflection, twisting and bending the room around it. A reflection that showed me. I backed away from the monitor, heart hammering in my chest. The man tilted his head as if amused. "You're probably wondering who I am," he said. "Let's just say, I'm the editor. But you can call me Roland." My mouth was dry. I whispered, "What do you want?" Roland didn't answer right away. Instead, he raised a gloved hand and pointed at the camera. "You've been quite the star, Jacob. People love you. They can't stop watching. Each episode draws more eyes. But now they're asking questions." I leaned closer without realizing it. "What questions?" He chuckled. A low metallic echo, like the sound of keys dropped in an empty hallway. "They want to know which version of you is the real one. The quiet man behind the screen, or the one in the videos, doing things he never thought he could." I shook my head. "That's not me. I didn't do any of that." "No." Roland leaned forward. The chrome face reflected my wide, pale eyes. "You watched, Jacob. You didn't stop. You fed it. You wondered what you'd do next. And you'll keep watching because you're afraid you'll find out." I stood up, yanking the power cord from the computer. The screen went black. Silence returned. I was shaking, sweating. My skin felt too tight. But then, the screen turned back on. By itself. The same video kept playing, now on every monitor I had, my laptop, my TV, even the small backup screen in the corner. "You can't unplug truth," Roland said. "You can only delay it." He stepped back. Behind him, other screens lit up, rows and rows of episodes I hadn't seen yet. Some were titled with names I didn't recognize. Others had mine. And one, freshly uploaded, was called EP07, The Visit. I clicked on it, despite myself. The screen showed me lying in bed, asleep. The camera zoomed in slowly. A sound like a door creaking. And then, from the edge of the frame, Roland stepped into my bedroom. Into my home. Into now. I spun around. But there was no one behind me. Not yet. The signal led me beneath the city, to places I had only read about in forgotten history books. Old subway tunnels that had been sealed off decades ago. The air grew colder as I descended, and the sound of the bustling streets above faded into an eerie silence. My footsteps echoed against cracked concrete walls, and every shadow seemed to stretch longer than it should, as if the darkness itself was watching me. The deeper I went, the more the tunnels twisted and turned, like a maze designed to confuse and trap. I pulled out my phone, but there was no signal. The only light came from my flashlight, cutting thin beams through thick dust that hung in the stale air. It smelled like rust and decay, forgotten years trapped underground. After what felt like hours of walking, I found something that didn't belong. A heavy steel door, half buried in debris but still sealed tight. I pushed it open with a grinding screech that seemed to wake something in the shadows. Beyond the door was a room filled with screens, rows and rows of them, flickering to life as I stepped inside. Each monitor showed a different version of me. Some showed me sitting at my desk, typing away, completely unaware. Others caught me in moments I barely remembered, laughing at a joke, pacing the floor in frustration, even sleeping. But there were also darker images, versions of me that looked angry, violent, twisted in ways I didn't recognize but somehow felt familiar. The screens were connected to a tangle of wires and old computers, humming softly like a giant machine breathing underground. Somewhere in the back of the room, speakers crackled to life, and a distorted voice echoed around me. "You're here," it said. Just as I expected. The voice was calm but carried a cold edge that sent a chill down my spine. I scanned the room, heart pounding. Who was watching? How had they managed to build this labyrinth of surveillance beneath the city? And more importantly, why? The voice continued. "This is where your true story begins. All your reflections, all your secrets, they're not hidden anymore." I moved closer to one of the screens, watching a clip of myself from just hours ago. The man on the screen frowned and rubbed his temple, just like I had after a restless night. But in the reflection of his computer monitor, a shadow shifted behind him. I blinked, but the shadow stayed. It wasn't just a recording. This was live. They were watching me. Always. My breathing quickened. The walls seemed to close in, the flickering light casting strange shapes that danced just out of focus. For the first time, I realized I was no longer the one observing. I was the one being observed. The deep web wasn't just a myth. It was real, and it had been watching me all along. The deeper I went into that underground labyrinth, the heavier the air became. It wasn't just the dampness or the stale smell of forgotten tunnels. It was something else. Something like a presence waiting, watching, always just out of sight. I could feel it crawling under my skin, like a shadow breathing down my neck. The corridor opened into a huge, dark chamber. The only light came from hundreds of flickering screens lining every inch of the walls, like some twisted cathedral of glass and wires. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. But no, each screen showed a different version of me. Some were easy to recognize, the same messy brown hair, the same tired eyes, but their faces twisted in ways I didn't know I was capable of. One Jacob was screaming in a silent rage, veins bulging in his neck. Another was cold and empty, staring through the screen like a ghost trapped behind glass. I stepped closer to a screen where I was smiling. But the smile was wrong. It didn't reach the eyes. It was a grin too wide, too fake, like a mask someone forced onto my face. That version of me looked dangerous, like he was waiting to snap. The strangest part was the small details. One Jacob was wearing my favorite jacket, but it was torn and stained. Another had scratches on his face, like he'd been fighting. I saw one me sitting quietly in a dark room, just like this one, watching the screens like I was now. I reached out, my hand trembling, and touched the cold glass of one screen. My reflection stared back at me, but it blinked late, like it was out of sync with my movements. I jerked my hand away and stumbled back. Then I heard it, a voice, calm but heavy with meaning, echoing through the chamber. It was Roland. "These are all possible versions of you," he said, his voice flowing over the walls like a low tide. "Each one a path you could take, a choice you might make, a darkness you might embrace. Which one do you fear the most, Jacob?" I swallowed hard, eyes darting between the screens. The truth was, I feared them all. They were pieces of me I'd tried to ignore, the anger, the fear, the loneliness, the cruelty. They were me, but not the me I wanted to be. A screen flickered to life in the center of the room. The image sharpened, showing me standing in front of a mirror, but the reflection wasn't mine. It was twisted, cruel, mocking. The eyes looked right through me, full of hate. I felt my breath catch in my throat. "Look closer," Roland whispered. And I did. Because I had to. Because somewhere deep down, I already knew that mirror wasn't lying. Roland stepped out from behind the wall of screens like a shadow finally taking shape. His face was hidden beneath that smooth, reflective mask, shiny, cold, like something that didn't belong in this world. He moved slowly, deliberately, as if every step was part of some twisted performance. The hum of machines filled the underground room, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. "You've come far, Jacob," he said, voice low and calm, like a whisper meant only for me. "But this is where the choice begins." I swallowed hard. I wanted to scream, to run, but my feet felt glued to the cracked concrete floor. The maze of flickering monitors cast strange shadows on his figure, making him look less human and more like a ghost trapped in technology. Roland's hand lifted, pointing to the countless screens around us. Each one showed a version of me. Some of those faces were angry, wild, almost animalistic. Others were hollow, empty like shells. One was smiling, sinister and cruel. "These are all you," Roland said, voice steady but laced with something like amusement. "All the versions of yourself you could become. Which one scares you most?" I blinked, heart twisting. It was no longer just a question. It felt like a trap. The reflection staring back at me wasn't just on the screens anymore. It was inside me, growing louder, darker. Roland took a step closer, voice dropping. "You can join me. Take control of the mirror channel. Shape the story. Be the master of your own shadow." My mind raced. Control? Power? The idea was tempting. No more fear. No more being hunted by myself. But at what cost? "Or," he said, "you can let the mirror win. Let your dark self break free. Let it finish the story." I could almost feel that other me, the twisted version, pressing against the walls of my mind, waiting to slip out. But I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. I shook my head, voice trembling but firm. "I'm not part of your game." Roland's smile was something I couldn't see, but could hear in his tone, like a slow, cruel laugh. "You already are, Jacob. The audience is watching. Millions of eyes waiting for the next move." The weight of his words crashed over me. I wasn't just a spectator anymore. I was the main act in a show I never auditioned for. As I stood there, trapped between the blinking screens and my own fear, I realized something terrifying. No matter what I chose, the mirror was watching. And it wasn't going to look away. I didn't want to believe what was happening. The tunnel around me was cold and dark, filled with the hum of machines and dozens of flickering screens. Every single monitor showed a different version of me, some angry, some scared, some twisted beyond recognition. I wanted to turn away to run, but my feet felt glued to the ground. Then Roland appeared. He stepped out from behind the shadows like a ghost, his face hidden behind that smooth, shining mask. His voice was calm but carried a weight that pressed down on my chest. "You think you can stop it," he said, "but it's already started. You're a part of this now. The mirror channel is no longer just watching. It's living through you." I clenched my fists. Roland smiled beneath the mask, a cruel, cold smile. "You're done." "No. This is just the beginning." Suddenly, alarms blared, red lights flashed. The machines around us roared to life. Despite my desperate punches and kicks, I couldn't stop it. The control room erupted into chaos, but it was no use. A new video began playing on every screen, the next episode. It was titled, Finale, Jacob Unleashed. I froze as the screen filled with my face. But it wasn't me. It was my mirror self, the dark version I had been trying to outrun. And on that screen, he was doing things I had never dreamed of doing. The worst part? It wasn't pre-recorded. It was live. My heart hammered against my ribs like a frantic drum. I saw the figure walk through a dark alley, his hands shaking as he reached into his pocket. Then, without hesitation, he pulled out a knife and lunged forward. I wanted to scream, to tell him to stop, but the sounds escaped me. I could only watch, powerless, as my double crossed a line I had always thought impossible. Was I already trapped? Had I lost control of my own body? Or was this some twisted trick Roland was playing? The walls seemed to close in on me, the hum of the machines turning into a deafening roar. Sweat poured down my face, and my fingers trembled on the edge of the console. I needed to break free. I smashed at the keyboards, yanked cables, anything to end this nightmare. Sparks flew, screens flickered, and went black one by one. But the video kept playing on the biggest screen in front of me, stubborn and relentless. I realized then, with cold clarity, that this wasn't just a game anymore. It was my reality, and I was losing. My reflection in the darkened monitor stared back at me, but it wasn't my face anymore. It was something else, something wild and unrecognizable. The line between me and the mirror had shattered, and I was falling through the cracks. I woke up with a start. The harsh buzz of my phone alarm dragged me from a dreamless sleep, but for a moment, I couldn't tell where I was, my heart pounding like a trapped animal in my chest. Slowly, the familiar shapes of my apartment came into focus. The peeling wallpaper, the cracked screen of my laptop, the empty coffee mug on the desk. I was home, but something felt wrong. Not the usual kind of wrong. A quiet, crawling kind of wrong that wraps itself around your thoughts and doesn't let go. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and checked the time. Morning. The daylight spilling through the thin curtains made the room feel colder, harsher somehow. I remembered the tunnels, the monitors, Roland's face hidden behind that shining mask. The videos, the mirror Jacob, the twisted versions of me. Had it been real? Was any of it real? I stood and moved toward the window, but the world outside felt distant, like a place I didn't belong to anymore. Everything seemed the same, but my mind was different. I felt fractured, like I had been broken and stitched back together in a way that wouldn't hold. Days passed. I tried to get on with my life. I avoided screens, deleted my browser history, tried not to think about the mirror channel, Roland, or that horrifying finale I had witnessed. I told myself it was a nightmare, a trick my mind played because I spent too much time alone, lost in code and shadows. But the videos never returned. Or so I thought. One morning, as I shuffled into my apartment from the grocery store, I noticed something out of place. On my desk, next to the keyboard, sat a small object I didn't recognize. A USB drive. Black, plain, no markings. Like it had appeared from thin air. My hands trembled when I picked it up. I turned it over and over, searching for a clue, a message, anything. Curiosity warred with fear. Part of me screamed to throw it away, to forget I ever saw it. But I plugged it into my laptop. The screen flickered to life, and then the video began. A man sat at a computer, his face turned away from the camera. I couldn't see who he was, but the way he moved, the rhythm of his breathing, it was familiar. Too familiar. On the screen behind him, a video played, my story. Every terrifying moment, every dark corner I had crawled through. I watched myself unravel in slow motion. Every fear, every step into madness, played out again and again like a loop with no end. Then the man turned slightly. I could almost swear he glanced toward me, as if knowing I was watching. The room felt colder. Shadows crept along the edges of my vision. A whisper crawled through my mind. Now that you've watched me, who's watching you? I shut the laptop with a slam, my heart racing. I was no longer sure where the line between viewer and subject ended. Was it over? Or was this only the beginning? I wasn't sure if I wanted to live in the silence anymore. Days had stretched into weeks since the videos stopped appearing. No new messages, no strange footage, no eerie echoes from the dark corners of the deep web. For a moment, I thought it was over, that maybe somehow I had broken free. But freedom was a lie. It came on a rainy afternoon. The kind of rain that blurs the edges of the world and makes everything feel distant, like it's underwater. The doorbell rang sharply, slicing through the quiet hum of my apartment. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door to find no one. Just a small package resting on the doormat. No sender's name. No note. Just a plain brown envelope. Curiosity pushed me forward. I tore it open. Inside was a USB drive. No markings, no labels. Just a cold, black stick of plastic. My heart quickened. A memory flared. Those videos. Roland's voice. The mirror versions of me. I knew better than to plug it in, but something deeper, darker, pulled me toward the computer. I sat down, hands shaking slightly as I inserted the USB into the port. The screen flickered. Then a video began to play. The title was simple, EP01U. I stared at the screen. The video showed a man sitting at a desk. The camera was positioned behind him so I couldn't see his face, but everything else looked familiar. His posture, the slight twitch of his fingers, the way he tapped nervously on the keyboard. I felt like I was staring into a warped reflection of myself. But this wasn't me. Or maybe it was someone else trapped in the same nightmare. On the screen, the man pulled up a video. And it was my story. My face, my words, my fear, all playing back in chilling detail. I leaned closer, breath catching in my throat. The man on the screen whispered something I couldn't hear clearly. But then, from the shadows behind him, a figure moved. I froze. A cold dread spread through my veins. The figure's outline was faint, just a silhouette at first. But as the camera shifted slightly, I caught a glimpse of a face. It was featureless, smooth like a mirror reflecting only darkness. I wanted to look away, to shut the laptop and pretend none of it was real. But my eyes were glued to the screen. The whisper came again, clearer this time. Now it was my own voice. The words sent a shiver down my spine. Now that you've watched me, who's watching you? I sat back, heart pounding, sweat cold on my skin. The room felt colder, darker. The line between viewer and watched had dissolved. I wasn't just the star of the show anymore. I was part of the audience, and I had no idea who was in control.